Hey, y'all. On today's podcast, we're going to show you how to work from home as a virtual travel agent.
Welcome to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast, where life always comes before work. We're your hosts, Shane and Jocelyn Sams. We're a real family that figured out how to make our entire living online. And now, we help other families do the same. Are you ready to flip your life? All right, let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again today. Super excited for today's show. This is a continuation of our work from home job series. We're kind of branching out a little bit and showing you, the listener, other ways you can make a living besides starting a website or selling virtual courses or anything like that. There's so many ways to live that flipped lifestyle in today's economy. The internet makes so many jobs possible to work from home and do things at home that you can really make a living doing almost anything you want, anything you can dream of. And we have an amazing example of a work from home job today.
I'm really, really excited about today's episode because this person came into my world kind of randomly, I guess you would say. A couple of years ago, Shane and I were thinking about going to an all-inclusive resort. I really didn't know much about it. I had heard about using travel agents before, but we've never really used one. Well, I'll take that back. We used one for Disney, but I really wanted someone who was an expert in all-inclusives and knew all about what we wanted to find in an all-inclusive resort. So I did, as some people may do, actually probably just nerdy people like me, but I got on Facebook and I used the search feature and I typed in all-inclusive travel expert. And I got a lot of different people and I started kind of looking at their pages, but one stood out to me in particular. So what I do is I go on and I message people, and if they get back to me in a timely manner, then there's a possibility that I will work with them. And there's a pretty good possibility. Well, Marcy got back to me right away, and we have been working together ever since. And this has been like a couple of years ago.
So today's guest is a literal work from home travel agent, and it is actually our personal travel agent, Marcy Jennings. Marcy, welcome to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are very excited to talk to you today for a lot of different reasons. I think that our listeners are going to be really intrigued by what you do and just the types of experiences that you get to have as a part of your job, which are really, really cool. And we'll get into that just a little bit. But before we do, tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got started doing this.
Awesome. Yes. So I have a bit of an interesting story, I guess, but I think that this is how most business owners are often. So first of all, I'm a mom. I have two kiddos. They are 13 and 9. So I love having great vacation experiences. So and that has evolved over the course of time. But I actually started my career in physical therapy. So I came from the medical field and I loved what I did, but didn't love all the paperwork and all of the bureaucracy that's involved in healthcare today. So over the course of time, I realized that maybe I was looking for something more flexible and just something a little bit different. And
so I want to know a little bit about this transition, because I know that you're from a little bit larger area than we are. You're from the Kansas City area, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, in our area, we were teachers before we left our jobs to do this. And I know that a lot of people looked at us like we were crazy. So how was it when you told people like, oh yeah, well, I'm a physical therapist, but yeah, I'm going to stop that and be a virtual travel agent. Like, how did that conversation go?
Did you quit before you found this, or did you just kind of start looking?
Yes, great question. So, yes, absolutely. People thought I was crazy for a while. Probably some people still think I'm crazy now. But so, yes, and I did work it alongside of it when I got started. So how this happened was I loved to travel. I didn't grow up traveling very much. I grew up in the middle of Kansas on a farm, and our typical vacation was to go to Kansas City each year. So we weren't big vacationers growing up, but I discovered more about traveling and became obsessed with beach vacations in my adult life. So each year I would travel to a different island for a week. And I just love the process of researching different destinations, finding the best deals, and finding the cool things to do on these different islands. So that was my goal each year, was to travel somewhere different for a week. And in the process of doing this for a few years, my friends and family just started organically coming to me and asking me questions about where I'd been, which one was the best place, how did I find these great deals and all this. And I just loved it. So, but during this time, I didn't actually think that travel agents still existed. I had used one back in 2000, but I kind of say that was before the internet. I know it wasn't, but I felt that way. And so in today's world, I felt like that there was no, it wasn't necessary to have a travel agent, and they probably didn't even exist anymore. But I was kind of pretending to be a travel agent for my friends and family just because they wanted to know my expertise that I had. So I loved helping people. I would tell them about different deals I'd found and all of that. And that was the extent of it as I was, working in my physical therapy career. But then I met someone that when I asked her about what she did, she told me that she was a Disney travel agent. And at the time, I happened to be planning a trip for my kids to Disney. And I owned a timeshare at that time. So we were planning on staying in our timeshare condo. And all we needed was just the tickets for Disney. So I told her that. And she said, "Oh, well, I would be happy to help you out. If you would like to get your tickets through me, it's the same price as Disney, but I will also give you lots of tips about the best way to do Disney, the best places to eat, and just tips to make your trip more efficient." And when she said that to me, I'm sure the expression on my face was just so confused, because I said to her, "So how does that work? It's the same price, but how do you get paid?" And so she explained to me that in the travel industry, they've done a lot of research and they've realized that people that use a travel agent are more inclined to have a more seamless vacation experience, and as a result, travel more often. So travel companies like Disney, cruise lines, resorts, they all appreciate that fact. And they, as a result, build travel agent commission into their regular prices. So it doesn't cost anything extra. It's built into the regular price.
Wow.
So if you book this trip online, any of those things online, and you don't use a travel agent, that is built into the price anyway. So the website is just going to keep that commission instead of it being paid out to an individual agent. But instead, if you run that same trip through a travel agent, then the travel agent benefits from that commission that the resort or Disney or whatever has built into the price already.
Yes. And so, I think there are a lot of people out there who do not understand that. I know that I didn't understand it when that's the same story that I have. So we were planning a trip to Disney. I was completely lost. Like, I had never been to Disney in my entire life.
Like, stressed out, hair frizzing. Jocelyn, I thought Jocelyn was going to have a nervous meltdown when we were planning this first trip to Disney World.
And, I'm asking online. I'm like, I need help. I don't know what to do. And then one of Shane's friends from high school had reached out to me, and she's like, "Hey, I'm a Disney agent, and, I know everything about Disney. I've been a million times. I'm a pass holder.
And it doesn't cost you anything more."
Yeah. And so I was like shocked about this. And I said the same thing, like, how is this possible? And she told me the exact same thing. So once we started looking for Caribbean vacations, I was like, okay, I'm going to find a travel agent, because I love doing all the research for trips, and I love going on and, comparing all the prices, the same things that you were talking about. But my problem is, I have 2 kids who are involved in activities. I work a full-time job. I have a lot of things going on.
And you don't know what you don't know. Like one of the things that was like our travel agent that we used for Disney, she had literally been like 100 times. And like every time they launch a new ride, she goes down there to ride it to make sure she knows what's going on. And it's like, we got this little book, and it had like an agenda, and like we just went to all the rides that we wanted to ride. It was the most flawless, seamless, perfect trip ever. And it was like crazy, because then when we started looking at these beach places, like we had never been to any of these resorts or anything. And Jocelyn was like, "I bet someone goes to all these places and is a travel agent just like our Disney person." And she started looking, and she found you, and we had the same experience. It was like, you planned it. You helped us set everything up. We just showed up and laid out on the beach. right?
And what I love about using the travel agent is that, I can tell you what I want. I love Marcy because she really makes sure that she understands what I want instead of just saying, I want a nice beach. Well, she will ask me, well, what does that mean to you? Does that mean you want nice sand, calm water? A nice beach means different things to different people. And I love it because, Marcy, you will ask me, okay, what exactly do you want? And you know exactly what to find. I mean, you've
been there.
You've done probably how many trips for us? I mean, like a lot now, probably at least 5 or 6. And every time, like, it's been exactly what I asked for.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions here. So what's interesting to me is the reason that the cruise lines and Disney and places like that really, our first intuition is, well, they don't want to use a travel agent because then they got to pay the commission. But they've already got it worked into the price, and they know that you create repeat customers. So in essence, a travel agent, the big service that they're providing is not just planning for the person, but it's creating recurring revenue like for these attractions, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So they get to like go back and over and over and over again. So your job really like not only creates magical memories for people, but it also supports like the travel industry, correct?
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So do you only get paid commission, or do they also do virtual travel agents like get paid like with perks, or do they give you guys like certain fees for certain things, or like how do you actually get paid? Is it just when you book a trip?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we do get paid in a few different ways. Primarily, it is commission. And I think one of the most challenging things about getting into this industry is that as a general rule, you don't typically get paid until your clients travel. So people are booking trips, sometimes on short notice, but oftentimes really far in advance, sometimes 6 to 12 months in advance. So you do all the work, first, and you don't get paid for quite a while on that. So that's a challenge in this industry because not everyone could just jump in and wait that long, to get paid. So, but commission is the primary way that we get paid. We also do get perks as well. And that varies based upon, what you're booking, whether it be Disney or cruise lines or all-inclusive resorts. So that's quite variable, but there are definitely incentives out there as well because, they definitely want travel agents to have experiences so that we can turn around and then sell that to our clients as well.
And once you get started, it's kind of like the assembly line. Like, like if you start building a car, on the first part of the assembly line, they put the frame, then the tires, then the door. You don't have a car when the thing starts. But once the first car rolls off the line, they just keep rolling off the line. So like if you started doing travel planning now, like in, let's say January, whatever month we're in, it's April, I think right now. So like, let's say you start in January. Well, maybe you don't get paid for that first one for 3 months, but you've been selling other things by then. So basically it'll start like kind of rolling in where, oh yeah, I booked this 6 months ago, but I got paid today. And I booked another one today. I'll get paid for that one 6 months. So you can create like a stable, almost predictable. It's actually kind of neat to be able to do it that way because like if you book one in January for June, you're like, I'm going to get paid in June. And then you book one in February for July. And then you book one in March for, you can kind of predict like, oh, well, starting here, as long as I keep booking trips, I'm going to keep getting paid like every single month, correct?
Correct. Yes. And, sometimes I've had people book at short of notice as, less than 24 hours when they're departing. And then sometimes I'm booking things out 3 years in advance, just depending on what it is and what the clients are looking for. So, and there are definitely another piece of it that's challenging from that side of things is there are peaks and valleys to this business. Even, once you've been an agent for a few years, there's still peaks and valleys because, we, depending on what you focus on, like for me, I focus a lot on couples trips and family vacations, but I'm definitely in leisure travel, not in corporate travel. And so, I'll have peaks like spring break, month will be huge for me. And then summer months are huge, but then there's definitely the drop off of other months where it's a lot less. So you really have to be able to manage those peaks and valleys as well.
Yeah. Every business has a cycle, right? Mm-hmm. When we were selling lesson plans as our primary income stream, we would do great in July, August, September, October, November. Then whoop, Christmas break came and nobody was teaching. And then the spring was a little less. And then summer was really bad because there's no teachers teaching in June. Right. So like we would have to do the same thing. Like we might make a lot of money one month, but we had to kind of divide that up over the next 3 months to pay the bills. Right. So it's like that's just that business cycle. If you're going to work from home and you're going to be self-employed, you've got to learn to ride the roller coaster. You know what I mean? And like sometimes there's business, sometimes there's not. But what's interesting is you have total control of like how hard you want to work. And if you want to go out and really blow it up and work, you know, and make a lot of money during those peak times, that's going to easily cover you for, you know, the downtimes.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's go back a little bit because we kind of jumped ahead a little bit. All right, so you worked with the Disney travel agent and you were like, okay, this is pretty cool. So what happened next? So you're still working in the physical therapy practice, right?
That's right. Exactly. Yes. So basically the conversation ended, you know, after I took this Disney trip and she assisted me. And I said to her, I think this is fantastic what you do. And I feel like that I already do this for my friends and family, but I love beach travel. And her company at the time was doing exclusively Disney destinations. So I said to her, if your company ever decided to expand out, I would love to know about the opportunity because it might be something I'd be really interested in. So I went on my merry way and back to my physical therapy job. And about a year later, it was somebody that was, a friend that I would see intermittently. So I ran into her again a little over a year later. And she said, guess what? Our company just decided to expand to all destinations. And here's the contact information for the owner if you would like to contact her and see if it might be a good fit for you. So that's what I did. And when I met with the owner, I laugh about it now because I feel like that she must have looked at me and thought I was crazy because at the time she's sitting there with probably about, I would say maybe 25 agents at the time that all worked from home, that all had a major passion for Disney travel. And that's all they knew. And they didn't do anything else, even though they were saying they wanted to expand out to that. So I was the first person to come to the company and saying that I wanted to do it differently, be a beach destination specialist. And then I'm also saying to her at the same time that all of my experiences have been in these various island destinations, staying in condos, which is also not really a big market. But obviously she saw something in me. Because at that time, I'd only traveled to one all-inclusive resort ever. And it wasn't that great of an experience in comparison to the other travel that I had done in these different islands in staying in condos. So she said, let's give it a whirl. And I said, in my mind, I had always been such a planner and just always so strategic in everything that I did. And so it was strange to me that I just basically, I think it was because I felt like I was already doing this for my friends and family and getting nothing out of it, just loving it, that I just said, why not? So I did start working this alongside my physical therapy career. And I was working part-time. I think I was working around 20 hours a week as a physical therapist. And then I jumped into doing this. And really my biggest thing that I did to get started was I just over and over and over again explained what I said earlier in this recording about how it doesn't cost anything extra to use a travel agent.
Right. And
really just hammered that home more than maybe necessary. But I feel like sometimes when people hear something, they don't hear it the first time. And so I just kept reiterating that and just put a lot of information out there about what I did know at the time, and then grew it from there.
Who was your first client? Like when you put this stuff out there and you're like, hey, I'm a travel agent now. It doesn't cost anything to do this. You're going to pay for it whether you get help or not. So you might as well get the help. Like, do you remember how much was your first commission, or like how much, or who did you get that first time where you were like, oh my gosh, this is real. Like this actually happened.
Right. Yeah. So great question. So I can remember our first two clients, and my first, I believe the first one I actually closed the deal on was a trip to Grand Cayman, and it was for a family that I knew through my daughter's softball team. So that our daughters played softball together. So she was already looking for a trip, and I stepped in to assist her, and I'd been there a couple times to that island before. So I had knowledge of it, and got her this great package that she said was actually lower than what she had seen when she was researching it herself. So she was happy about it. I was excited about it. And I really was not focused even on what the commission was going to look like. But then when I finished booking the trip, I think maybe the agency received about $600 in commission off of this package that I put together for her. And I thought, whoa, because I would have done this solely for discounted travel at the time. Like that I would have been in just for that, because I loved it so much. And I thought, okay, wait, there might actually be something to this.
So the agency that you were working through got 600, and then you got part of that or something like that?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a real estate agent, like the broker gets a part of the commission and you get the rest of it, basically.
Yeah,
exactly.
So let's explore that just a little bit, because there's probably people out there thinking, okay, I love to travel. This sounds like an awesome job for me.
I mean, I could book 4 trips a month and make a couple grand. Like, I mean, it's like crazy when you think about the math when it starts to add up.
So the question that I think that our audience might be asking right now is, do you have to work through an agency, or what are the benefits of working through an agency?
Yes, that's a great question. So there are lots of different ways that people would do a career as a travel agent. I choose to go through an agency like this and affiliate myself with an agency because they basically take care of all of the contracts, because there's so many different entities that you can book through each individual cruise line, Disney, all these different resorts, and the possibilities are endless. So they manage all the contracts on the back end of that and keep track of all the commissions coming in, because, when I say that you get paid at the time of travel, that's not an exact science. They all pay at slightly different intervals, but that's kind of an average. So there's kind of all this back office stuff that comes through. And I just decided that wasn't really something that I wanted to focus my time on. They already had all those set up. So from that perspective, that's an advantage. The other advantage is that the way that those contracts are set up and the amount of commission that you get is based upon the volume of bookings. So if you're with an agency that is selling quite a bit of travel, your commission level is going to be higher per booking.
Yeah.
So
because there's other people in there selling too. So it's like our agency sold 10 Disney packages instead of your individual self sold 2. You're going to get a lower commission than someone who's selling 10 or whatever.
Exactly. Yes. Gotcha. Yes. So that's definitely an advantage of that. Of going
through
an
outsourcing the back end is what you're doing. Like by giving up a little bit of commission you could earn. I mean, you're either going to pay someone to do that and hire someone to do it, or you're going to do it yourself anyway. So it's kind of just, I choose to make a little less per sale to not have to mess with all that back end work.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your actual day to day. So you do work with an agency, but you work from your house, right?
And you're your own boss, kind of. You're just like it's basically sales and planning, right?
Yes. I'm an independent contractor and affiliated with an agency. So, and we all work from home. And in fact, the entire company is just based out of a house too. There's no brick and mortar business associated with this whatsoever. So
that's what we like to hear. That's the flip lifestyle right there. It's like that's what people get confused, I think, when we say, and we probably don't do a good enough job at this. We talk a lot about starting your own business. We talk a lot about being self-employed, and we talk about being independent a lot. But really what we're just saying is, can you construct a life where you have total control of your time every day, right? Like where you get to dictate what you do, where you get to choose how much money you want to make. Some people don't realize that when you do go down this path, this flip lifestyle path, this, work from home path, that you don't have to go make $1 million. If you're happy, you can get to a certain level and be like, yeah, I'm going to make X dollars as a travel agent, and then I'm going to go travel, right? Like I don't want to grind 90 hours every single month of the year. And like that's really what it sounds like you're doing as an independent contractor. You get up and you decide when you want to make your calls, when you want to email people, when you want to plan a trip. If you got a soccer game, you go. If you want to, I know we were in Jamaica. Marcy planned a trip for us to Jamaica, and we look over and she shows up. She walks into the restaurant at the resort. Like, I'm like, that's awesome. She just decided to go to Jamaica, and she did.
So it's hilarious because, Marcy lives in the Midwest. We live in Kentucky, and we're like, hey, let's meet up in Jamaica. So that's where I met you in person.
Right?
Yes, that was the best.
Not the worst life ever, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So what does that day-to-day look like? Like, just on a normal, let's just say we can talk peak, not peak, whatever, but like just a general day, what happens as a virtual travel agent when you wake up? Like, what do you do?
Yes. So just like you were just saying, Shane, it is the benefits of this is definitely the flexibility. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I do have 2 kids, and they're involved in a lot of activities. So my day-to-day never looks the same. So that can be a blessing and a curse. And I feel like as a business owner, most people struggle with that. But, the different things that are always a part of my day and what I need to juggle as an agent is new business. So producing quotes and, talking to different clients that have reached out to me for new business, servicing current business of people that are about to travel. I'm preparing itineraries for them, making sure all their questions are answered, emailing the resorts for any special requests that they have. So managing those people that have already booked travel with me and getting that going. And then I also do some marketing, which the different avenues I use for that is going to networking groups, and then using social media. So, creating my content in regards to that. So the majority of my time is spent on the computer answering, doing primarily everything through email. But in this industry, and I think many others anymore, is you're juggling the various ways in which people prefer to communicate. So I think that's one of the things that you definitely have to get used to too, is that some clients are texting me, some of them are Facebook messaging me on my personal page or my business page, emailing me, calling me. There's a variety of ways in which people communicate. So that's something that I feel like is hard for some people to get used to too. So
do you have like a home office, or do you just primarily work wherever your laptop is? Do you coffee shop it up? Do you work at home most of the time? Like how do you prefer to work?
Right. Most of the time I work from home because I prefer a quieter environment. So when my kids are not here, it is a quiet environment, but not always. So, but occasionally I go to coffee shops too. So I do a little bit, a mix of both, but primarily home.
That's an interesting challenge because it's so funny like how different work from home businesses work. Like Jocelyn and I have very much tailored our business in a way that we have we control communication as much as possible, right? Like we do 2 member calls with our community every month, right? Those are an hour and a half each. We have forums that we can go in and check every day, and that's the only way to communicate with us, correct? And then we do also have an email. We have a tier where people can email us once a week, right? But it's funny because we have our business tightly controls this way people can communicate, and your business is the main thing is everybody communicates differently. And I'm always fascinated by how different work from home jobs can look, right? And how different challenges creep up in different things to where some people, I love to communicate like this. Jocelyn likes tight communications where nobody can get a hold of her, no notifications, no nothing. I kind of I'm on Voxer. I'm talking to you on a podcast. I'm going to type to you an email, right? And it's you can just kind of build it and lean toward the work from home opportunity that you really want to do.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that part of why it would be difficult to create that tighter, way of communicating is because almost everyone that works in travel, you start with your warm market, and most of the people that you have as clients in the beginning are people that you know very well, your friends and family. Especially because it's not something that, there is no additional cost to it, so if your friends and family are going to travel, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't they use you? So So I would say still today, the majority of my clients are people that are friends.
Do you have a lot of repeat business? Is it a lot of repeat business? I would say it is. I know we're repeat business. We're calling you like every 3 months.
And we've also sent a lot of friends your way as well.
Right, yes. We're like, you got to call Marcy. She's the one to do it. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So do you ever work while you're traveling? Like, does Disney or a resort call you to come down and then but you're like, oh man, I've got like a client that I've really got to plan a trip for, but I also really want to be on the beach in Grand Cayman, Or
are you at an all-inclusive resort and annoying clients are texting you all the time? I mean, I don't know who that would be,
right,
but
exactly. Jocelyn harassed you. But do you do that? Do you sometimes you just take it with you and you're like, man, this is amazing. I can go do my travel agent job at the resort I'm planning for someone, basically.
Yes, absolutely. So at this point of my business, I travel so much that there's no way I wouldn't be that I could get by not working during some of my travel. So, and sometimes it's just by choice because I could work from my house or I could work from my balcony at one of my favorite destinations, especially in the winter. That's very, that would be my choice.
Right. Location independence is amazing. That's one of the craziest. I love I've never heard anyone say it that way, but I totally felt you when you said that I have total flexibility, but it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because we struggle with that all the time, right? Like when you wake up and you literally can do anything you want, sometimes you really want to go do anything you want, but you got work to do. It's like, when do you do it? What do you do? And you're constantly juggling back and forth between activities. Like we got up this morning and we started homeschool. I checked my emails and then we did more homeschool. And then I went out for a paddle on the lake on my paddle board, and Jocelyn was inside doing something. And then we came into a podcast. And sometimes that can get very confusing, or it's hard. It is a struggle to find the discipline to get all your stuff done. Like freedom is amazing, but it's also kind of hard to master, right?
Exactly. Yes. And I feel like that for most people, that's a constantly evolving process because especially when you have kids, your schedule is constantly evolving. I mean, my schedule today and what it looked like 4.5 years ago when I started this business it's not at all. There's very little similarities in what it looked like.
How old did you say your kids were? I forget how old your kids are.
13 and 9.
Like, our kids are 10 and 8, right? So we're kind of like right behind you on the scale there, But I swear it feels harder now to manage life with older kids than it even did when they were babies, right? Because it's like they have so much more stuff going on. They can think and fight back so much more, right? And it's like, it's hard to kind of juggle everything because my schedule feels different every 6 months because they play a different sport or they do a different activity, So it's like, it's almost harder. I don't want to say that. Somebody's going to write me in going, I've got a baby and it's hard. I know. Babies are hard.
It's all hard.
It's all hard. Everybody, what we're saying is that it's just a different kind of challenge at this age. And like, I'm so thankful that we're self-employed because I don't know how we would have managed it if we had been, being forced to be somewhere else all the time. Right.
I think the same exact thing all the time. So I don't know how I would do it. So I definitely feel very blessed to have the flexibility, but it's something that you constantly have to
earn,
figure out how to manage.
Let's talk just a little bit about how did you know it was time to make this a full-time thing? So you were working physical therapy, you were working part-time travel agent. Like when did you decide, okay, this is like viable and I can go all in on this?
Or even I want this more, even if I make less for a while. Like how did that thought process work out?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I can't remember exactly when the timing of that worked out for me. I can't tell you exactly when, because the blessing also that I had was as a physical therapist, at that time, I was what we call PRN, which means I was called in on an as needed basis. But the company I was working for needed me kind of routinely for about 20 hours a week. So, but it was in a place where as I got busier, I could say, you know what? I don't need to be here this much, let's tone this down a little bit. So I was able to really wean it back slowly. But I would say that, it was probably a year to a year and a half into my travel business before I was really able to really completely set that aside and feel comfortable with it.
That's the time that we find usually happens. It's somewhere between a year to 18 months that you can look down and say, I want this more, even if it doesn't make sense to everybody else right now. Right. And there's nothing wrong. Like, you had an unfair advantage. I mean, you had put in all the work to become a physical therapist, to give yourself that kind of opportunity. And everyone has unfair advantages. Like, Jocelyn and I talked a lot about how, like, even as teachers, we did have a little extra time off, right? So where we could get some stuff done. We always had weekends off. As a football coach, I had the choice whether to stay in the office until 7:00 or leave right after practice, right? So like we all have these unfair advantages, and you capitalized on it to be able to build something that you really wanted.
Yeah. And we don't have to like get super specific here, but as far as like an income, like, were you able to replace your physical therapy income with being a travel agent? Were you able to exceed that? Like, what did that look like?
And like, what does an industry person, like, what can you make?
What's an average, in other words?
Yeah. So great question. And so I'll tell you a little story back from when I interviewed with the owner of this company. She knew that I was coming to the table as a physical therapist, and she pretty much knew, what kind of income that produced. And so in the conversation with her, because she never really had anyone, she had very few agents that were full-time at that point. A lot of them were teachers and just loved Disney and kind of did that on the side. And so I remember her saying to me, she said, well, I mean, if you think that you're going to love this, that's fantastic. But just so you know, we haven't really had anyone that's really made more than about $30,000 doing this, So I just want you to be aware of that, because I know you're coming from a different place, different income level. And I just want you to be realistic. And I said, and again, ironically, I was like, I don't care, I'm in. So, but as I built this business, and what did not happen overnight, but over the course of time, I was able to exceed, what I used to make as a physical therapist, even when I worked full time. So
that's amazing.
So it is something that, the more you work it, the more time you put into it, the more effort, the better you are at it. I mean, you can kind of say you can write your own paycheck. I mean, so there's a range for sure. I would say probably some published average out there would probably say $30,000, but
I read 30. I was researching it right before we got on, and I read that part-time people can hit around 30, and then like the industry median was like 80 something thousand. Like for people who were totally full time, like all in. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's incredible, because you have no commute, you have no boss, you have no whatever. It's just, do you want to roll up your sleeves and go make an income and do it from the beach? You
travel to exotic locations all the time, and it's part of your job. Like, it's not the worst job ever.
Like our friend Suzanne, who does who did our Disney travel for us, like, she literally goes to Disney every month. She goes to Disney, like, not just Disney. Like, 1 month's Disney, the next month she's probably walking around the Millennium Falcon, getting ready to open Star Wars right now. Like she goes to the one in California. They go to these places and have these events, and just those side benefits. And she's just like crushing it too, like planning trips. And it's just amazing, just absolutely.
Yes, and I always think of the contrast in people that would create and start a traditional business. So they're most people have to invest a lot of money into something like that, and then, usually won't turn a profit for 3 to 5 years. So, while I caution people when they're looking at this industry that they would have to work for a while before they really before they get paid, still there's no overhead, and you're not waiting 3 to 5 years to turn a profit.
And if you're consistent and prolific, once you get there, it's just going to happen every month. And it actually is kind of a benefit at some point, because if I book a trip in June and I know I'm going to get paid in January for a trip that they're taking, like, that's pretty sweet. Like, even that is flexibility, because you might be like, I'm going to take a vacation and I booked these 3 trips back in May and they're going to feed here. So I'll just go on vacation then. Right. So there's even some planning there.
Now, do you have a website, or are you primarily on social media?
I just am on social media. Our agency has a website, but I would say that probably very few people come through those channels.
Yeah.
And I like that because I think that it's a good lesson because we talk a lot about online business, but online business doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have your own website. I mean,
you just have a Facebook
obviously.
page, right? And like Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just solely do Facebook at this point.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like that's incredible.
But
Yeah.
you had the foresight to say, okay, social media is a powerful platform. I'm going to get on here. I'm going to post regularly. I'm going to show people what I'm doing, where I'm going. I'm going to keep posting. And, things happen. Like I found you just from a random Facebook search.
Yeah.
And, that's going to happen sometimes. And
you don't need a website, right? I mean, it's like, you just need a way for people to find you. And like, that's one of the key components of our courses is it's just about putting yourself out there. It's just about starting. It's just about doing it. Because if you say on Facebook, hey, I'm a travel agent now. If anybody wants me to plan a trip, you've got a chance someone will reach out to you.
But if you say it one time, then
they won't.
People will forget.
Yeah.
If you can to remind people, hey, I'm here, I do something really cool, then that is going to give them an opportunity over and over again to come and use your services.
And do you get most of your customers through referrals, or do you get like them on Facebook, or like how do you find, like that's the hardest part in any business, any work from home job is how do I find people to pay me? Right. So like, how do you find most of your customers?
It's primarily through referrals. And some of those started as, that they found me on Facebook, just like the two of you. And then they referred me out from there. But I would say my two primary ways was just word of mouth. And then secondly, through Facebook. And I did a lot of, going back and forth between marketing through my personal Facebook page and my business Facebook page in the beginning. I always caution all business owners to be careful about, not spamming their personal Facebook page all the time with business things.
For sure.
But also, I'm pretty blessed to be in an industry where nobody gets tired of seeing pictures of beautiful beaches and videos of amazing things, right? Everyone likes to look at those types of things. That's our industry. It's a flashy photo that draws people in. So, bridging and reminding people over and over again on my personal page and linking that over to my business page really helped me get a consistent audience there. And then again, because I travel so much now, it's probably on average about every 6 weeks to a different resort. Then people see, all the people I'm friends with, they see my personal travels on there, and then they see it through my business page as well. So
exactly. So basically, like how many, just to kind of start closing this up a little bit, like,
sure.
like I can see where someone could get into this maybe, and even start making a couple $100 a month, which is, so we always say $500 is a car payment. That could change someone's life. Right.
Right.
But how many people do you really think it, like what you said, it took you about a year, maybe a year and a half. Like how many people does it take to support? Like if you have a good book of business of about 20 families, are we talking 20 families? Are we talking like what would it take to make a living someday doing this, just to give like anyone who might pursue this path a goal, like just to have that good recurring base of, a good steady income where, people are going to call you at least once a year for vacations, or like, what do you think a number would be someone could shoot for?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And that really depends on, if somebody's looking for a $30,000 income or $80,000 income.
Well, let's say 30, because I'm sure there's thousands of people listening right now that'd be like, I would love to have 30 extra thousand.
Right. Yes. So, you would probably on average need about 75 clients, families, to produce that. So, and you might have 10 in one of those months, just like we talked about earlier, with those peaks and valleys, 2 in another month and 20 in another, it's not always even. But it should organically grow over time. And
it
if you work
on top of each other, basically.
Yes. And if you work it consistently and you find your niche and you're passionate about what you do, it will at some point grow to the point where you couldn't stop it if you tried.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that's where you have to then figure out what you want to do with it and where you're going to go with that. So.
And what an amazing thing, though. Like, I just like, listen. A lot of time, one of the things I say a lot on this show is, you only need 100 people to pay you $50 a month to make $60,000 a year. Like it's a thing we say a lot just to drive home the fact that it doesn't take a lot of like mountain moving to make a living working from home, online, as a travel agent, as an online business owner, as whatever. Like what you just said was, man, if you just had 75 people book a trip in a year, you could add $30,000 to your life. And that is life-changing money. That is even if you don't pursue it full time. And if you, and then, like you said, once the moment, it's like a dynamo. Once it starts, once the avalanche starts, it may be a snowball at the beginning, but you're not stopping it once it gets going. And it's just amazing to see what you've built in your life. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's super cool. We're so glad that you come on today to tell our audience about what you do and just all the cool benefits of being a travel agent. And so we want to give you an opportunity to let people know where to find you. So if someone's interested in booking a trip, I know you do all different kinds of travel. You kind of specialize in Caribbean all-inclusive, right?
That's right. Yes. Caribbean and Mexico.
Yes. And so if you're interested in learning more about Marcy, where would they be able to find you?
So my business Facebook page is Off to Anyland Travel by Marcy.
And your name is Marcy with an I.
Marcy with an I. That's right.
So all they have to do is go into Facebook, search for Off to Anyland. Off to Anyland or Marcy Jennings, and they'll be able to find you online. And we will put links to that in the show notes as well. And I am actually also going to put together, I'm going to have to research this a little bit, but I'm going to put together a little guide for anybody who might want to pursue being a online travel agent. Totally free. This is it's not even in the community or anything like that. I'm just going to put it with this podcast. And you can go to flippedlifestyle.com/travel agent. That's FLIPPEDLIFESTYLE.com/travel agent. And we will have a little information packet there so you can learn more about maybe pursuing this as your version of the Flipped Lifestyle. All right, Marcy. Well, thank you so much again for being here. We don't have a lot of quote unquote experts on the show, and we're trying to like bring a different kind of expert, people who are literally out there doing things for a living that are just making everybody else look at them like you're crazy. And I look at your Facebook feed all the time because we're friends, and I think you're crazy. But it's a best kind of crazy because you're crazy on the beach. You're crazy at an all-inclusive. You're our people, Marcy. And you're our kind of people because you are truly living the Flip lifestyle, and it is absolutely amazing to watch. And thank you so much for being transparent, just sharing your story with everybody today.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great episode of the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Man, what an amazing story hearing about another way you can work from home, another way that you can make money online. Marcy has an amazing job as an online virtual travel agent, and we would love to help you learn more about that too. Again, go to flippedlifestyle.com/travel agent, or if you want to pursue any other work from home opportunities, we teach a lot of different paths inside of the Flip Your Life community. We would love to help you find your path to freedom, just like we found ours, just like Marcy found hers inside of our community. All you have to do to learn more about that is go to flippedlifestyle.com/flipyourlife, and you can learn all about the Flip Your Life community. Before we go, we would love to close with a Bible verse. Jocelyn and I grab a lot of information from the Bible, and we want to share some of that with you today. Today's Bible verse comes from Psalm 18:36, and the Bible says, "You give a wide place for my steps, and my feet will not slip." So go out there, travel, do what it takes to build a business that can give your family freedom and change your family tree and your future forever. It's out there. There's so many different things. It's not just build a website. It's not just be a travel agent. It's not just teach online. There's so many paths to give you and your family the freedom that you deserve if you just get started. So until next time, get out there, take action, do whatever it takes to flip your life.
Bye.